Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast. On this episode, we will be reviewing Without Remorse and The Mitchells vs. the Machines. And our topic this week, really the biggest part of our episode, is the movies that made us love movies. Let's get on with the show. My name is Aaron Peterson. Joining me today is my fellow host, Amanda Sink.
Hello, hello.
And original ho, because John Davenport could not be here. I almost said John Williams. I don't know why, but I've got Brian Williams, original ho, is here in the house. What's up, Brian?
What is up? Well, actually, my house, not your house, but sure.
Also, sweet timing with John Williams, because technically we're recording on May the 4th be with you.
Great. Way to tie it all together, sweetheart. Good
I
job.
Got it. Thank you.
I thought she was going to say he just died. My heart dropped. Oh, my heart dropped.
We would not be here right now recording this. That would be such a tragic day.
Easy killer. I mean, it's not Harrison Ford. It's John Williams.
But he's probably the greatest composer of our time.
But Harrison Ford's not too far from it.
You see him at the Oscars?
As a great composer? I don't recall that. Yeah, did you see him at the Oscars? I mean, everywhere he goes, he just looks like, I don't want to be there.
Nah, he just looks dead.
Yeah, I was going to say, he looked like he was getting to the point where he was going to limp. You know?
Like, not technically dead, but if you round it up, you would just call him dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's looking bad.
Yeah, poor guy. Well, we just got, well, not just, I mean, it's been a week since the Oscars, but it was the lowest rated of all time, or as long as they can record. I think it was like 9.9 million viewers, and they've never had under 20 million. So much for streaming for the win, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure that first year was probably pretty low. Then between year 1 and 2, there was a whole lot of what's an Oscar, so it's got to be the lowest since then.
Fair enough. I don't know why we brought you on here. I think
one of these days you're going to learn your lesson. I mean, it's been like 10 years now, so I don't know when that day is, but
that's true. This is our 10th anniversary. Oh. Well, we want to really get into the topic this week because it's the movies that made us love movies. I don't know how long it's going to go. We don't usually do personal topics on the show.
Are we not doing reviews?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to introduce the reviews.
Oh, okay.
Patience, my young Padawan.
My bad.
So we're going to do the reviews first to get them out of the way. Not that they aren't important, but we want to get to the movies that made us love movies. You understand. Remember, you can always find more information at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Join our Facebook group, or we're on Twitter at BuyPopcorn. Now, let's go to our spoiler-free reviews of Without Remorse. Amanda, I saw this. You did not. John was supposed to lead this one, so you're winging a lot of this.
Yeah,
Do your best.
But it's directed by Stefano Sollima and stars Michael B. Jordan. Seeking justice for the murder of his pregnant wife, an elite Navy SEAL uncovers a covert plot that threatens to engulf the United States and Russia in an all-out war. So, first off, this film is based on the Tom Clancy novel under the same title, which you've read.
Mm-hmm.
And fun fact, Tom Clancy used to be an insurance agent. Super weird, but I just wanted to let you guys know since I found this out.
Okay. Thanks.
But how does the film compare to the novel? Because I know you're a big fan of the Clancy novels.
Yeah, it is. It is like the movie is the book for people who can't read. That's what I would say. It's absolutely nothing like the book. It's so far removed from the book. I mean, the characters in it, so that counts, I think. But it's
Okay.
it's its own story. But I will be fair to it as a movie, not just as the book, because I don't think it's fair to review a movie based on what you wanted it to be. It should always be based on what it's trying to be. It's not trying to be that novel at all, because there's a whole drug cartel subplot that is a very pivotal part of the book that never comes up in this movie. So it's really trying to be its own thing.
How old is the book itself?
It came out in 93.
Yeah.
So it's 27,
so you
28
think
years.
Do you think maybe some of it's just updating the source?
I'm sure some of it is.
And for more relative times?
Yeah, some of it is. And some of it is just making it more generic, action cliched. I mean, it's really kind of a rudimentary plot. very simple revenge plot where it was a lot more complicated in the book. So maybe they were dumbing it down for us folk. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I try to
you
review
know.
the movie based on the movie and, what the movie was trying to do, which was not be the Tom Clancy book.
But what about Michael B. Jordan? He kind of seems all action to me usually, especially when I think about the Creed performance. But the story is supposed to be, from my understanding, a little bit of thriller mixed with action. So does he capture the dramatic performance at all?
Michael B. Ripped. They should call this movie Without a Shirt. That's what I keep telling people. Because as much as he's going around showing his pecs off, I think that's what they should retitle it. He's Michael B. Jordan. He's charming. He's interesting. I enjoy his performance. I don't think he's a great actor, or I haven't seen many great performances. I loved him as Killmonger, though, so please take that for what it's worth. I think he's well suited for this, though. It really felt within his wheelhouse. Didn't blow me away or anything. I'm not, oh man, he's the new action guy. But he did an admirable job.
I was trying to keep it all together while Brian was doing like a thriller dance over there.
Yeah. You said thriller. I just, went into the dance.
That's great on audio, Amanda. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, it is. The film has a disastrous score on Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't mean that just to take a rip at it. It's sitting at 45% and 44% respectively for audiences and critics. What do you think contributes most to this poor score that usually doesn't happen, but both critics and audiences apparently agree on it?
It's generic. I mean, there's some really cool action scenes. There's a few scenes where it's almost ludicrous that he would survive this. To be fair, I mean, it's almost superhuman as opposed to John Kelly in the book, don't get me wrong. I mean, the character is resourceful in this movie and he's very intelligent in this movie, but he also has some seriously superhuman moments where there's no way any person, I don't care how skilled you are or what kind of Navy SEAL you are, you're not getting out of that alive, but he does. There's some real superhuman feats. So I don't know. I mean, you can forgive a lot of action movie cliches, I think. I just feel like the plot is very predictable. I knew and it didn't have anything to do with the book because it was nothing like the book. So I could promise you it's nothing like the book. So I didn't know it was coming because of the book. 20 minutes in, I had called the entirety of the movie and I was right about everything. That's probably why the score is so low, because it was very, very predictable. Still entertaining enough, but very predictable. Cliché.
I mean, is there anything you did like about it? Just
Michael B. Jordan. I don't normally love Michael B. Jordan. I feel like he tries too hard in his performances. He's one of those actors where I often say I can see him acting. You know what I mean? And that's usually a problem for me. I think he did. Just Mercy is the exception. I think he did really well with that one. He really kind of fell into this performance a bit. So I think that was something I enjoyed, but I didn't love. I just it's a movie I've seen 100 times before and I've seen better done because the story was better told. And it isn't because of I really don't think the book would translate to today. So it's not a matter of that. I just felt like when I can tell you everything that's going to happen in the movie, you're trying to make some things a surprise. They're very calculatedly trying to make some things surprising. And I'm not once surprised. I think that's a failure on the screenwriters. And one of the writers is Taylor Sheridan, who is a great frickin' writer. So I can't understand that.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Someone else must have had some sort of oversight and changed some things.
I think they're trying to set up for a franchise, which they do at the end. They're setting up for future, which if you have read the books, that's exciting because you know what comes next. I don't want to spoil that for anyone that wants to look into it. That got me excited. By the end of the movie, I'm like, all right, I want to see what happens here. And I haven't made note, but Jodie Turner-Smith is Karen Greer, who's the niece of Jim Greer. If you've read a Tom Clancy novel, you know who Jim Greer is. She did a very good job. Jamie Bell is Robert Ritter. He's a CIA agent. He was really good. He really impressed me. And Guy Pearce is in here as Guy Pearce.
So if the full price of admission for Without Remorse were $10, what are you giving it?
$5.
Okay.
It's on Amazon Prime, so it shouldn't cost you anything. Plus, you'll get some free delivery just for watching it. But and I'm sure it did well. I really want the movies that are coming after it. like that gets me really excited. There's a whole game franchise based on that I freaking love. So as well as the book, I'm stoked if that happens. I will. Definitely.
So that's the Rainbow Six follow.
Well, damn it, Manda. Just damn it.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't really spoil anything for the movie, I would imagine. I mean,
no, not at all. Not at all.
So, yeah.
Okay, now we're going to go to The Mitchells versus the Machines. This is a Netflix movie, and a quirky, dysfunctional family's road trip is upended when they find themselves in the middle of the robot apocalypse and suddenly become humanity's unlikeliest last hope. Amanda, you saw this. I actually just caught it because people wouldn't shut up about this movie, and I don't really go to animated films much, but Mitchells versus the Machines, people that I know who don't watch animated films love this. Why is this so much better than so many other animated films? Or is it, to your opinion?
Oh, I think it was fantastic. The one thing that I would say really connected with me is it tried so many different things. And it didn't try them just to see if they'd work. They knew what types of things would capture audiences, where there's a nice fun adventure, there is a sci-fi element, there's a family element where there's a little bit of disconnect between two individuals in the family, and so they're kind of struggling to mend their relationship, which is the purpose of this story. And I think a lot of parents and teenagers or adults who were teenagers can resonate and connect with what these characters are going through.
Mm-hmm.
Because it happens. It's part of life that you and your parents aren't always going to get along, and you feel like they're suffocating you, and there's all of these things wrong. And so this film is trying to address that in a really fun and humorous way. So it's really enjoyable. I laughed a lot, and it does a lot of quirky, unique things to capture your attention.
And some genuinely honest, emotional relationship scenes, I would say.
Yeah.
Where they really look at the aspects of how a father has to change who he is to be a father, that sort of thing, and why they do that. How children don't always understand why their parents are the way they are, and how parents don't always understand why their children are the way they are. Like, there's really some honest nuance there, which I was really surprised about, like genuinely surprised about in a animated film.
And I'm sure there's some movie lovers out there who weren't blessed with having parents that understood their affection for arts in general, but even for movies. And this is really what this girl is going through, where she's like, man, I really love this stuff. Why don't my parents get me? And by the end of the film, I think everybody starts to realize that it's not about what your interests are. It's about understanding why people are interested in the things they're interested in. Yeah. You don't have to love them. You don't have to like them yourself, but you can begin to understand people when you understand the things that they care about.
Love that. Linda Mitchell is voiced by Maya Rudolph, whom I love. And Rick Mitchell is voiced by Danny McBride, whom I don't. So I just wanted that on record. It really has nothing to do with the question I'm going to ask. So how's the voice cast with those guys and Eric and Andre, Olivia Colman, John Legend, Chrissy Teigen, and a whole lot more? How'd you like the voice cast in this one? Did the fact that they were famous voices throw you off, or they all fit really well?
No, I would say the only one that really stood out to me was Maya Rudolph. And partly because of her voice, but also because her character looked like her in some ways. Like, I could see the familiarities. Other than that, nobody else really stood out to me, not even Danny McBride. Now, you probably have like something embedded into your core that like has a trigger when you hear his voice.
Yeah, it goes like that in the back of my head.
I don't have that same reaction, but I also don't feel like his voice was as stereotypical Danny McBride as it traditionally is. Do you disagree or agree?
I was wonderfully surprised because he disappeared into the character. He actually became a character that wasn't just Danny McBride. So I actually was pleasantly surprised with his performance, honestly, to be completely fair.
Yeah.
And that's as fair as I'm going to get to the guy. It was nice to see him stretch beyond his... I would actually like to see that kind of performance in a film where he's not just being the blowhard buffoon, where he's actually trying to play a real character. I think that could be... And somebody's going to scream one movie that he did that no one saw where he did that. I didn't see that. Every movie I see him, he's the same guy. I think he's obviously capable of it. I know he's a talented writer. I would just like to see that happen. I would like to see it on film. Maya Rudolph is great in everything. Like literally everything.
Yeah, she's absolutely fantastic.
So for you, is this a family film or can anyone enjoy the Mitchells? Even if you don't even like kids?
I think anybody can enjoy this. I mean, there's obviously the family component, which I think would make the experience better if you're watching it. If you get your teenager who maybe is super angsty and you just feel like you guys can't connect, I think this is a really great moment for you two to try to bond and understand that there's differences, but that's okay. But it's super enjoyable for anybody because the animation is fun. The humor is fantastic. If you're a fan of Gravity Falls, you'll probably enjoy this because Alex Hirsch is a part of it, who is the writer and actor for Gravity Falls. But there's just so much goodness that comes from it. And at no point did I feel like it was poorly paced, it was badly acted, that the story was meandering. Like, I enjoyed everything about it. It was really well done.
I'm just picturing this based on your pitch here, that some teenage person is going to sit down with their mom or their dad and say, look, I know you can't understand why I have every part of my body pierced and tattooed. So let's watch The Mitchells versus the Machines and maybe you'll understand me a little better. According to your logic, this could work.
I mean, I don't know about that, but I think
that's the way I understood it, man. I'm pretty sure that would clear up any confusion. They'd be, I get it now. I get it.
But here's the thing. It's not about them understanding
That's what I mean.
act itself or the art. It's just about you understanding why if something's important to someone, then you can learn to appreciate that they have that connection, that they have that connection to art, or they have that connection to music, or whatever it is that you're like, you're wasting your time on this. There's a reason for it, and it gives them purpose. And I think that's beautiful.
I think this connection to movies is a great transition to our topic. So if you could give $10, if the full price of admission was $10, what would you give this one?
I'd give it $7.50.
Okay, and it's on Netflix now, so go check it out, y'all. All right, before we get to our topic, now on digital, Academy Award winner Christopher Walken, Christina Ricci, and Zach Braff star in Percy vs. Goliath. This is based on true events. Percy vs. Goliath is the thrilling story of a small-town farmer's court battle against one of the largest agricultural corporations. Directed by Clark Johnson, you can buy or rent Percy vs. Goliath tonight, and it's rated PG-13 from Paramount Pictures. Now, Percy vs. Goliath is based on a precedent-setting case that changed the legal landscape for farmers everywhere as this small-town farmer goes up against this huge corporation to stick up for his own rights. My kind of movie. I love these kinds of movies, and you don't get as many of them made these days as you used to. Everybody should definitely check this out. And if you want a chance to win a digital copy of Percy vs. Goliath, send an email with your name and the subject line, Percy vs. Goliath, to contests@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. That's contests@thehollywoodoutsiders.com, and you'll be entered to win one of 5 digital copies. All right, we are at our From the Outside In topic. Now, this is going to be a pretty open discussion, and we're going to talk about the movies that made us love movies. And I want you to think about it like as a kid, or whenever that passion was that took hold for you. You know, Amanda and I were debating this before the show, and we said, as long as you're 18 or under, it should count. So that gives you some room to decide where it was that the movies that made you fall in love with movies were, and what they're about, why they influence you, etc. So Brian, you know, you haven't had to talk basically since we started the show. So let's start with you. And I know you came in, you know, Brian literally came in last minute to this episode. So he's winging it, but I know he knows his movie. So yeah. What was the first movie that comes to mind when you think about a movie that made you fall in love with movies?
Well, it's not my favorite movie, but it's the first movie that I can remember, I guess, being wowed by. And that was actually the old Errol Flynn movie, Captain Blood. It wasn't even in a real theater. I think it was part of, I want to say it was actually being shown at the local college or something like that. But and ever since then, I've loved anything that's got to do with swashbuckling pirates. So I blame that movie for my pirate fascination ever since. But that was the first time that I was actually kind of wowed by it that I can remember.
Speaking to that, since you brought up your love for pirates, are you okay with the kind of goofy, kind of comical pirates, kind of like the latter Pirates of the Caribbean movies and other comedies that there have been? Or do you prefer the swashbuckler, straightforward hero/rebel?
Well, I think Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow has really, to be honest with you, has really done a fine job of blending both of those. So I'm fine with it. It's the evolution of things. I'm good with it. But I do miss the kind of heroic theatrics of some of those older movies. But yeah, any problems I have with Pirates of the Caribbean isn't so much because the lead pirate is not heroic enough, or maybe he's a little too cheeky. But it's, yeah, but they're good. They're good. I like them.
Did you used to dress up like a pirate and run around the yard, like with a whole plastic sword kind of thing?
There is a non-zero chance that I may have done that. Actually, I think I have. As a pirate, especially, being a latchkey kid, you've got a few hours to yourself getting home from school or at least a couple hours anyway. So I'm sure I've dressed up as a pirate, threw some, maybe bounced from one couch to the love seat to a chair or the coffee table or something like that. Yeah.
Both swashed and buckled.
And that might have been just a couple of weeks ago. No, I'm just kidding.
Sometimes I do it on the weekends.
Sometimes the mood strikes me.
Amanda, what about you? What's the first movie you think of when you think of a movie that made you love movies?
Well, if I'm trying to go back, it's probably Poltergeist. I just remember not even necessarily watching the movie, but I remember after I started getting my dad to rent it for me, going back to Blockbuster and being like, all right, I want to re-rent this. All right, I want to re-rent this. And at one point, I remember him telling me, like, you've got to find something else here. Like, return the movie and find something else to watch. But I was definitely that child where if I found something and fixated on it, then I just want to keep rewatching it and rewatching it and rewatching it. The worst kind of child.
Didn't you say that movie terrified you?
Yes and no. I mean, I feel like at that age, it should definitely have terrified me. But the movie that scared me the most was Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'd watch it multiple times, like sitting in bed petrified, just rewatching it because I love the movie, but I was so scared of it. And then I saw the remake later on in life, and that solved that problem for me.
And you're watching it in the one place that Freddy gets to you, while you're asleep in your bed.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, I've talked about it probably ad nauseum. Long-time listeners already know the movie before it comes out, but there's other movies. But the one that always comes to mind is Rear Window, and that's simply because my mother was an avid Hitchcock fan. And she passed it along to me. I don't know I can't remember if it was forced or a genuine respect, but I learned to love them. I don't know if it was PTSD or what, but I eventually learned to love them. And Rear Window is the one where, for whatever reason, when she showed me that one, Psycho, great movie, love it, but it didn't just get a hold of me like Rear Window did. A lot of it had to do with, I thought it was amazing how, and you keep in mind, I've always been an aspiring writer. I've always been a writer. So to me, capturing a character is really pivotal to a film. And he managed to do it in that movie with hardly any dialogue. I mean, because in case you've never seen the movie, L.B. Jeffries is Jimmy Stewart, and he's basically confined to a wheelchair, and he's looking out his back window, and he sees multiple characters in their windows. And you never really get to hear much of what they're doing or saying. You only get to see it. And still, each one of those characters become fully fleshed out characters in the movie. And it's, the older I get, the more impressed I get with it, because now I know just how impossibly hard it is to do right. And so many filmmakers they've tried to emulate this. Nobody's got it right. Disturbia came a little close, but they only had really one character to worry about. Fright Night came pretty close. Again, just one character. He did multiple characters that became fully fleshed out just by spying on them. And also capturing that inner voyeur that we all have. And we always say, oh, no, that's not like us. Yeah, it is. We're watching movies constantly. Anybody listen to this podcast, you love watching movies. You love
like more than half of TV is voyeurism. Of regular
reality.
cable TV is voyeurism.
It just perfectly captured the human experience and also was just amazingly written or captured on film. I've got the screenplay. I've read through it. I really feel like it was mostly captured through the lens, and it was just brilliantly done. So that made me love the art of filmmaking and appreciate the art of filmmaking, because I was always amazed how he got all of that in 2 hours. And I feel like I knew every one of those people.
And how old were you when you realized all that? Like 4?
6 or 7. Yeah, something like that.
And you're reading a screenplay.
Yeah, I think I read the screenplay when I was like 10 or 12. But yeah, it caught me. It got me really excited to think, wow, I want to do this. Still haven't done it, but I've done a lot of podcasts about them. So I think that counts.
And 2 websites.
There you go. Boom. I think I got this down. That's the first one. There's a lot of ones. Now, Brian, outside of the one that immediately comes to mind, like let's just open discussion, all of us, but we'll go just take 1 or 2 at a time and go round robin like we've been going, and just kind of take us through another film or a kind of film that speaks to you.
Yeah, really one of my largest loves, I guess, is Casablanca to me, which is the perfect movie. It's got everything. It's got action. It's got romance. It's got mystery. It's a little bit thriller. It's literally everything. And considering it's a 1942 movie, you talk about a movie, I mean, just especially as relevant as it is these days, talk about inclusion and giving everybody a voice. There's, good Lord, okay, you've got white people, black people, Spanish, Russians, Germans, French. There's North Africans, Moroccans. There's just they're all represented, and represented pretty accurately. Not in the
stereotypical Hollywood sense.
Stereotypical, right? Just making somebody look like they're Chinese or something like that. So no, they're authentic people. So it's a very smart movie, and it's perfect. And I think it's one of the first movies, and I think that's why it's still highly regarded. It's one of those first movies that didn't have the ending you think it should have had.
Because you want them to end up together.
Yeah, of course you do. Which is, really weird that this guy who's married to this woman, to the lead actress, doesn't really seem to mind that her ex-boyfriend that she met while they were still technically married is, she's running off to meet him occasionally. So it's just, he's oddly cool with that, so it's maybe perfect isn't the best word for it, but, yeah, there's a few question marks raised there, but
there's overall, a guy who's very overconfident, I would say.
Right.
I think you're misjudging how the allure of Humphrey Bogart right now, buddy.
Right, exactly. If Humphrey Bogart doesn't scare me, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty confident in myself, so I know what I'm bringing to the game.
That's a beautiful movie. I didn't see that one entirely until I was a little older, probably in my 20s, I want to say. My mom had me watch it because she loved old films. So we watched a lot of them, but I never watched the whole movie. I made it through Gone with the Wind, but I never made it through the whole entirety of Casablanca until I was in my 20s. Sad to say.
And as far as the influence it's had on pop culture, there's probably a dozen lines through that movie that people say to this day that probably have never even seen the movie and even realize that it's what it's, where it comes from.
Play it again, Sam. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shocked. Anyway.
All right, man. And next, another one.
Oh, I've got a long list.
Let's do one or 2 at a time.
I've got a couple for this one.
Okay.
So these are a couple that probably should have scared me, but thankfully I had a good influence growing up that would show me scary movies when I was really, really young, but would also show me the kind of more behind the scenes. So I wasn't seeing it as like a 6 or 7-year-old and then being like, oh my God, this is real. It wasn't. So I knew that going into it. And I became obsessed with Scream.
Oh, that's a documentary. That's a documentary. I don't know if you heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I really enjoyed Halloween. Like, these are some of the movies. I've got obviously a trend going on about scary movies. The first, 5 I've mentioned now, 4 are all scary movies. And so that kind of really started things for me where I was like, oh, this is really creative and inventive and interesting the way that it changes your emotions. And of course, I didn't think about it that deeply, but I enjoyed it for that purpose.
Which one would you say would you say Halloween is more scary than Scream? Scream is more entertaining, or are you actually scared when you watch Scream? Or when you first watched Scream, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't really scared of either of them. However, I did have a reoccurring quote unquote nightmare about Scream. So I'm trying to phrase this right. So when I would watch the movie, I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm terrified. There were a couple moments where I was like, but when I would go to sleep, I would have occasionally for some time after, because of course I would rewatch it. And I would have this dream. I had a bunk bed at one point, and I would sleep on the top bunk bed. And I had this reoccurring dream for some time that there were a bunch of ghost faces that came into my room, and I can still visualize this dream. And so I'm in this small room, the lights are off, and I can just see their faces like kind of light up around the bed, but there's a bunch of them, like probably like 7 in this small room.
Cult.
Like
That's a cult. Just so we're clear.
Approaching this bunk bed. And that was kind of like my dream then transitioned into something super, super weird. But I had this reoccurring dream about these ghost faces like coming to my bed. And I have no idea what it was about, but it's obviously something I thought about into my sleep.
I am so going to make this happen. Next time. Somehow.
Somehow you're going to get me in a bunk bed and I'm going to wake up to like 7 ghost faces.
Right, yeah, the bunk bed, that's not so much the important part. But yeah, making sure that you're asleep and we get 7 to 10 people with ghost face masks, just going, hey, wake up. And you wake up and there are all of us there.
I probably would be
awesome.
Terrified at that point, like waking up to a bunch of people in my room.
I think I would too.
Because I've seen how that movie plays out. Everybody dies. Everybody dies. That's funny. I've got. I'm gonna go kind of for mine. I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna go by category, I guess. For horror, there's 3 movies that were pivotal to my love for horror films. And I'll be succinct, but I just want to cover them. So Jaws is one. I literally was so terrified. My mother took me to see that in the theater. Goddamn her. And I was terrified of water till I was 18 or 20. I would never get in the ocean until I was in my 20s, something like that.
So you ruined vacations?
She ruined it. I didn't do anything. She ruined vacations. And I remember she took me to Florida for... I don't remember what it was. I was for my birthday or for just vacation. And I was like 12 or 13, 14, whatever I was. And she couldn't drag me into the water. She took me to the beach and couldn't drag me into the water. I was kicking and screaming. And like, I imagine basically if you go to YouTube and watch any Walmart video of some kid throwing a fit, I was that kid on a beach because she couldn't drag me into the water. And it was her fault. It was completely her fault. So I hope she understands that. Jaws worked for me completely. So that one. And I think it did for a lot of people. A lot of people are still afraid of the ocean a little bit because they've seen Jaws and they know it's that underlying menace you can't see.
But you could be horsing around with, like, in a swimming pool with somebody.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Right.
As a kid, and your dad or a friend or something like that, they start going, da, 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 and your anxiety level ramps up about 3 notches. There's no shark in the pool. Mm-hmm. But they start going, but you don't know what's about to happen.
Yep. That's true.
And you just start getting out. I don't care what you whatever you're about to do is not good. So I'm getting out of here.
It's still my buddy Dennis, who I've known since I was 5, so he's well aware of my early goings of how I couldn't get in the water. Like, he always thought that was all your friends that know your fears love to exploit your fears, as Brian just alluded to with Ghostface. So if we go on vacation and we happen to be in the ocean at the same time, he always does the and like, dude, it's not fun. And he's not a big movie guy, so he always gets it kind of wrong, and it still works. Like, he never gets the beats right, but it still works. Like, that's how you don't even have to nail it. You just got to be close.
And you know what he's doing.
Oh, yeah. Childhood trauma. Other one is Evil Dead, which is a movie I absolutely love, but it really, really is one of the very, very few movies that has ever scared me. And it's probably because it was one of those. Now, Amanda, you weren't around during this time, so you wouldn't know this. But Brian, I think you'll probably understand what I'm saying. Evil Dead was one of those movies where everybody talked about it, but you couldn't. It was hard to get it first. So yeah, it was one of those where you knew it was supposed to be really terrifying, but you hadn't seen it, so you didn't know what to expect. And so you finally hunt down a copy. Well, my mom finally got me a copy, or her friend Greg got a copy. I remember that, and let me watch it, and it was absolutely terrifying. It turned the lights out, and it was at that time, nothing like that had ever been done, in my opinion, that I had ever seen. It was just the camera work. It was a combination of this demonic presence that you could never escape. You did everything you could, and you just couldn't get away. A lady got raped by a tree. That was messed up. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens in that movie that terrified me. And still to this day, if I watch that one, I can still get a little creeped out from it. I never get scared anymore, but I sure the hell did when I was a kid. Did you see that one when it came out, Brian?
I remember watching it. It was spending the night at a friend's house. There was about 3 or 4 of us. We had about, I don't know, 5 or 6 VHS, rentals. And yeah, I just remember being on the floor. We had a couple of like sleeping, number of like sleeping bags and stuff, just kind of pallets, little, in case we of course we inevitably just crashed in the middle of the floor. But yeah, that's how I remember seeing it for the first time. And it's scary movies are better with people. It's you feed off of each other's fear and anxiety and tension and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And if I know that somebody else is getting ramped up, I don't want to say it. I mean, I guess it fuels mine a little bit. So, but yeah, that's, and that was just of course I was, I don't know what, 10, 11, something like that, seeing it. So being able to process some of this stuff just wasn't, just wasn't possible, I guess. I don't know at the time, but yeah, it was weird just in the sense that it was different. And like, you had no idea what was about to happen, but we had fun with it.
Oh yeah, it was fun with a group. It definitely was not fun by yourself. I can tell you that. It was, a little terrifying. I'm kind of curious, Amanda, because you saw it obviously long after we did, but you've seen the movie. Mm-hmm. Does it have the same effect for you, or is it more like, I don't get why people are afraid of this thing because it's so much older?
I can see. I can understand why people would have been scared of it during its time, but obviously in this podcast, I'm going to be aging myself quite a bit. So
you're almost 30. You're not like a young pup, so it's
yeah. Don't say that. I don't want to be almost 30 either. But
it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's coming fast.
Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is. But it's one of those things where you can recognize why it would have scared people, but because of advancements in film and your own experiences, and I think to Brian's point, if you're watching it alone or not with like a large group of people, that changes your experience and the anticipation of the film. So it didn't terrify me, but I feel like I'm in the minority where I had been significantly exposed to scary movies from an early age, where a lot of people probably weren't because they would say you're a bad parent. Like, I heard that about my father a lot. Like, that is not okay. That's a bad parent for letting you watch that. And you're like, no, you don't understand. It's not, like, I know it's not real. He knows it's not real. It's just a movie. Like, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go around killing people or, murdering them against a tree in their sleeping bag. That's just not how it works. You're just enjoying the movie. So
obviously you would have to duct tape that bag closed because it's too easy to get out.
Yeah, right. So I think it just depends on your exposure level to these types of movies beforehand, who you're watching it with, that type of thing. Because for me, to Brian's point, I would watch movies like, and this is in my teenage years, Disturbia. You mentioned that one, Aaron. Mm-hmm. I remember watching that with my best friend, and I had seen Rear Window, of course. And she's scared of everything. She's just terrified of everything. And she cut off the circulation in my hand by squeezing it so hard in that movie. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This movie is not even, it's barely a thriller at this point. Like, it's not scary. But she was not exposed to that kind of stuff at all growing up. So here I am, literally with a numb arm and hand because she's so terrified and is using me as her stress ball. And I'm like, man, it's just a movie. Like, all right. But that's where you also get a little bit of enjoyment too, right? Like, if you're one of those people
Absolutely.
that isn't super terrified, you get the thrill of watching people lose their shit over a movie when you're like, haha, I'm
sissy.
Fine.
Yeah, sissy.
Yeah.
Speaking of parents that weren't great parents. So for my mom basically ruined my childhood, I think. She made me terrified of a few things. But she also...
She made you stronger.
Built character. Sure
with
did.
Trauma.
She was very instrumental in my love of film, especially horror. My mom loved horror movies as well as your dad. And she would take me to horror movies all the time. But the first drive-in I remember going to was Friday the 13th. And she took me on my birthday. I was 7 years old. If you want, go Google it. You can do the math. You can figure out how old I am. And, the movie had been out, I think, like a month and a half or something like that. But it was at the drive-in. So it was my first drive-in experience that I can ever remember. And all I remember doing is running up and down to every car I could saying, today's my birthday, Friday the 13th. It's my birthday, because it was also Friday the 13th. And my mom thought that was the cutest thing, and nobody else did. But because of that, really I think because of that, I love those movies, and probably because of the drive-in experience and a lot of other factors.
Almost the exact same thing. That's the reason why I like Friday the 13th, because I was born on Friday the 13th. So
were you really?
Yep, I sure was. Which probably explains a lot, but but yeah, it was. So anytime my birthday was on Friday the 13th, it always made it a little bit special. But yeah, that was always a little connection I had with it as well. And
makes it
you guys cool.
Makes it a little cooler, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
I was just left with Flag Day. It's a holiday on your calendar, damn it.
Is it though?
It counts. I
feel like Thor. Is it though?
Yeah.
All right, back to you, Brian. Give us another movie that made you love movies. Or movies.
Oh God. There was a movie, and I've got a bunch of random stuff. There was a movie, speaking of Jaws, Orca was a big influence.
I remember Orca. Yeah.
I love that movie. And it's so bad. So bad.
We want to be Jaws so bad.
I think Bo Derek is going to make it every time I see her slide down the floating houseboat dock thing, whatever it is. And, Richard Harris I like. I think it's probably one of the movie I like. I became a Richard Harris fan from, because it would always play, I think, on like TBS or WGN.
Yeah, it was on a lot.
Quite a bit as in our childhoods. So it was just probably by, sheer inundation with it that I just became a fan. But that one stuck with me. Another one that was very similar because it got a lot of playtime on the couple of cable channels that you got as back in the day was The Island of Dr. Moreau.
That was the original, not
the original.
Not
right,
Val Kilmer.
Right. The one for no, not that one. Which there's a tragically funny documentary about that one as well, about how bad the production went. But the original with Burt Lancaster and the guy from who was the guy from Logan's Run? Michael York.
Yes. Yep.
So that had a big thing. Just the imagination with that, especially at the time. Of course, special prosthetic effects weren't really a big thing, but here's all these kind of half pig people, half tiger people, and half hyenas, and all kinds of crossbreeding of all these animals and people, and it just sparked my imagination as a kid.
Don't you love those weird ones that you would find on random TV? The kids today don't know what they're missing.
Nope.
You didn't have that where you had a few channels. Maybe you're lucky if you got cable, so you've got like 15 channels at that point or whatever the number was.
Right.
And so you're just desperate to find something because you don't have endless content at your disposal. I remember watching Super Fuzz. It was called Super Fuzz. It was it was an Italian movie. He's a cop and he gets in a nuclear explosion or something and gets superpowers, and his only weakness is if he sees the color red, then he's it was funny as hell, and I watched it 1,000 times because it was always on.
Right. And that's just it. It was just, they were always, and that's probably what it was. I was just brainwashed. You watch it enough, you're like, all right, good deal. But it just always seemed to be on. There was a lot of other movies like that as well, like Damnation Alley.
Oh, yeah.
That was always being played on like a Saturday afternoon, on that fourth or fifth channel that you picked up or something like that. But there's Flash Gordon is one of my, I just always, I guess, one of my favorite, and not podcast related, but you and I, of course, talked about this not long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the band, the soundtrack from Queen, I think probably had as much or more to do with it than the movie.
What a fantastic soundtrack.
It was. And
still is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, still is. So, I think I had an 8-track. I had a cassette tape, maybe multiple cassette tapes, CD, downloaded on iTunes. I mean, I've more than invested in that movie.
Goddamn 8-track. That brings back memories of hitting that stupid button 47 times to finally get the song you want.
Right. And then it starts like 30 seconds into the song.
It always does.
You're like, all right, I'll ride this one out from here. But all right.
Man is listening going, what are you guys talk about the Old West? What the
I know what you're talking about. I'm not that young.
Did you have the channel surfing days where you come across things? Because I'll tell you what, channel surfing is how I first saw breasts for the first time in heavy metal. I'll never forget that. Heavy metal.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
I'm pretty sure
are they what they look like?
That's how I had seen. Well, I mean, I had seen Wild Wild West obviously prior, but I remember that being on a lot and just rewatching it.
Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider.
Will
No,
Smith?
you don't want nada. None of this. Six Gun of this.
Yeah.
Brother Running this. Buffalo Soldier. Look, it's like I told you.
There was boobs in that?
Oh, I don't remember if there's
I don't
boobs.
Remember. Oh.
She's saying channel switching.
Sorry,
I get
we
stuck on boob
moved
talk.
away from boobs. If we're talking about boobs, though, Titanic was a big one. Titanic was one.
2 big ones.
Like, okay, so let me sidetrack and talk about. I have like a section of movies so I can get through them that are all related to family. Like that was, so a lot of people, it sounds like Aaron for sure, you'll watch movies and you were infatuated with the filmmaking itself, the way the movie was put together, the script, all of that.
Yeah.
I was young and dumb and naive, and I didn't really care about the value of movies because I grew up, I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up on like Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen VHS tapes.
Quality filmmaking. Quality.
Terrible,
filmmaking.
but terrible. But one of the things that made me...
Didn't they solve crimes? Weren't they like
Did they? They may have.
detectives or something?
They had so many different versions of themselves. It was ridiculous. But my thing was always bonding over movies. Like, that's what the value of film was to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have memories of movies that are just like super important to me. And a lot of these movies aren't super great. Some of them I still love to this day, but it's because of the memories that I have attached to them. And that's like something that kept me going back to wanting to watch more movies, but I would do it with somebody else because that was the thing, was to bond over movies. So Tommy Boy and Grind, that was something like with my brother Brian, Wayne's World, all those kinds of movies.
Tommy Boy is so good.
Yeah,
so good.
that was, oh my gosh. And then there's another one. Oh, he's so dumb. I can't remember the name of it. It's Freddy Got Fingered.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff. Dogma, like all of those movies were movies my brother, because he was 4 years older than me. So he would get me into all of these movies that were terrible for me at my age, but we would enjoy them because we were watching them together. And they were just downright awful in terms of inappropriateness.
Dogma is a great movie. Minus the
great.
shit. The shit demon is a little unnecessary, but everything else is pretty great.
Yeah. My mom was never a big movie person, and she and I didn't get along most of my life. She was absent for a lot of my growing up time. But when we did watch movies, or when I would peruse through her VHS tapes, there was a lot of watching of Titanic, which meant flipping through 2 VHS tapes. There's probably people who are like, what? You had to go through 2 VHS tapes? Yeah, and you had to rewind them, and it took like 10 minutes for you to rewind the damn movie. Aaron Brockovich, Fried Green Tomatoes, Where the Heart Is. These were like, my mom was a sap.
Those are good movies, though. Aaron Brockovich is a great movie.
Yeah, I love me some Fried Green Tomatoes.
I think it's on its 30-year anniversary this year, isn't it?
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't even know why she was so obsessed with Where the Heart Is, but we would watch that a lot. I mean, it's kind of sad, like this Natalie Portman is having a baby in a Walmart, and she's like stuck in there, and her life is really sad, but we'd watch that a lot.
This could happen to you.
Yeah, right. This is my lesson in life.
This is why you don't kiss anybody for like the next 20 years.
Yeah. I remember when I first saw Gothica, I had seen it with my grandma. I think I was spending the summer over there. So she and I were just like, we'd always try to find different stuff to watch. And I became obsessed with this movie. Like, I had a very questionable obsession with this movie. I have no idea why. I just thought it was so interesting. And she had a jacuzzi. And because I was little, I pretended it was like my pool. So I would there's a scene in Gothica where she's trying to hide. And so she dips down in the pool and she's like trying to hold her breath as long as she can. And then once she sees the ghost in the water, she screams underwater up until she gets above the water. And I did that probably every single day for an entire summer after we rewatched the movie. For whatever reason, I was drawn to it. She couldn't say no to my adorable face to rewatching it. And so that became like a favorite of mine. Like, I still love this movie. I think it's a good movie, but
I will abstain.
I'll let you have this one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll just walk right by. Just
the last two in my family section are Big Daddy and The Crow. Both of these are movies that I bonded with my dad watching just because he enjoyed them, but also because for whatever reason, I don't know what this says about him as a parent, but he reminded me of Adam Sandler and Big Daddy, like a lot.
Let you pee on the bed a lot.
The ineptitude,
especially the humor. Like, to be very honest, like the humor was very much so like my dad, and so that was always something that connected on that. But I remember I loved The Crow so much. I got so invested with it. And I had paid for a $50 hoodie from Hot Topic back when Hot Topic wasn't super popular.
Wow.
And I guess just whatever. And my mom thought it was demonic. She was, like I said, she's very anti-movie. So she very rarely saw any of the stuff. But she thought that The Crow was demonic. So she took it, never told me about it, and threw it away. And didn't admit to throwing it away until years later. But I was so obsessed with this movie.
She threw wait, she threw it away?
She threw it
That's
away.
messed
She didn't
up, man.
donate it. This is money that I had earned from babysitting.
Oh, that's
like I
messed
worked
up.
for this money. Yeah.
I think Mom
And-
owes you a hoodie.
$50 hoodie. It was crazy. But that was a movie where I was like, oh, you could feel the dread and the sympathy for his character. And then obviously once you know that he died making it, it makes it all the more intense. And the soundtrack was fantastic in that movie.
That was a great soundtrack.
So yeah, there were a lot of connections. So that's a big chunk of movies that have a place in my heart and kept me going with my love for movies.
I'm going to piggyback because both you and Brian mentioned music. So I'm going to mention some that like I love because of the soundtracks. And I can't really say, well, some of them I think you'll understand, but The Lost Boys and Purple Rain are two that I think are pretty well. Aren't those great soundtracks? Like both of those are
Yeah,
fantastic
for sure.
soundtracks.
If you remember, just if I may, if you remember one of those South by trips, we started out the morning with the NXS with Jimmy Barnes.
Yeah, good times.
Good times.
Yep.
You know,
I do remember that.
screaming down the road at like 85 miles an hour.
Gonna have a good time.
Good time tonight.
Yeah.
Rock and roll music on the play all day.
I don't remember how sober we were, but yeah.
Yeah,
Probably not very.
Probably not. It was morning, but he had his run. I had my oatmeal. We were good.
That both of those soundtracks and NXS to this day is one of my favorite bands. Saw them in concert once, just amazing to see. And I can't hear the bridge or I can't hear the opening without, honestly, just like Brian was explaining, like I can't not get excited.
Mm-hmm.
I can't not get excited. I just get giddy, like dun, 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 dun,
That smile comes up and your head. Yep.
Oh, man.
Yep.
There's just something about it. And Purple Rain was just fantastic music that connected with the movie. You know, Lost Boys was the soundtrack. I really dug the music. Purple Rain was one where I could, even though I didn't even really like the movie that much, it made me think of the best parts of the movie when I'm watching it.
Right.
And also it's just great music. I mean, I still think Darling Nikki's a fantastic song that no one ever talks about because it's basically just about humping. And I don't know, I just like it. But then there's a couple other soundtracks. Now, I've talked about it before. I grew up in a poor neighborhood and whatnot. New Jack City was very much the music that I grew up on. So and that one came out roughly when I was like 18. So that was kind of like my whole childhood coming together in one soundtrack. And, you know, I can still sing every song word to word. Nobody wants to hear it, but I can. I mean, if Ice-T was right here, I'd do it for him. I would perform for him. I love that soundtrack. I'm not going to. Too many chances of offending somebody. But also two other ones. Band of the Hand is a movie that is so 80s. I mean, even you go look at the cover for it and it's 80s. I love the soundtrack and I don't know why. Bob Dylan does one of the songs and it's a great song, but the cover. But it's one of those where it just feels like if I hear the soundtrack, I can see the movie, even though I think I'm the only one that ever saw the movie. It was.
What was that? Was that like Bart Connor or something like that?
It was Paul Michael.
One of those 80s gymnasts that became a movie
like Jim
sensation
Cotta.
Jim Cotta.
It was actually Stephen Lang's in it. That was like one of his first big movies, and it feels very Michael Mann. I think he was probably a producer, but it was directed by Paul Michael Glazer, you know, from Starsky and Hutch. Mm-hmm. And I think he also did Running Man, if I'm not mistaken. And this was a group of kind of teenage outcasts and rebels. So it very much hit me, obviously. That's how I was, you know, as a teenager. And they're basically trained by Stephen Lang to be this kind of, I don't want to say a fighting force, but like crime fighting team, so to speak, to work together as a team to take down drug kingpins and whatnot. And it was just very Miami Vice mixed with 21 Jump Street, but it was before, or maybe it was like 86, I think. So it's probably right around the same time. I just loved the movie. It's not a great movie, but I love the movie, and the soundtrack really caught me. And the last one is Manhunter. It's the first appearance of Hannibal Lecter in a movie. Brian Cox. I thought it was great. It's different than Anthony Hopkins, but he does a great Hannibal Lecter in his own right. But at the very end, if you've seen Manhunter, it's a Michael Mann movie. The very end, the very climax of the film, Indigada de Vida, is an important part of that scene. Brian, have you seen I don't know if either one of you have seen Manhunter.
Yeah, I've seen Manhunter. It had the guy from the CSI.
Yeah, William Peterson.
Yep.
And
yep.
That climax, I probably rewound that because it was on videotape, like Amanda said. I rewound that and played it so many times. I still to this day can't tell you what the hell Indigada de Vida is about. I have no idea. But there's just something about that song. Michael Mann perfectly has it queued up where you have a scene building where this killer is getting ready to kill this woman, and the cop is there, and he's right in on time, and he has to basically come through the window to stop him, and it's timed perfectly to the explosion in the song. And it's just like it's one of those moments in a film combined with music that made me really appreciate when filmmakers can appropriately use music with their film to basically illustrate the scene, to help direct the scene, to infuse the scene. That one works for me every time. And every time, if it comes on TV and I'm even like within half an hour of that scene, it's a remote drop. My remote hits the ground. I'm like, I can't leave. I got to wait for the end of Indigada de Vida. I just got to wait.
I knew the name Band of the Hand, so I had to Google it while you were pontificating.
Sorry about that.
No, you're it's fine. It's one of those, I knew the title, and even after Googling it, I'm like, I haven't seen this movie, but so much of it looks familiar. And one of the pictures I came across is Lawrence Fishburne is in it, and he looks just like Will Smith.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it was long time ago.
I just sent you a link in the little chat part of it for your entertainment. But yeah, it's so much of that. It's I know I've seen it. I just don't know. Yeah, I just don't remember it.
Well, definitely, probably worth a watch if you're okay with the 80s, and I mean really, really okay with the 80s, because that movie, I mean, you just looked at it. It's like the 80s threw up on the 80s.
Yeah, it's like everything you've seen in the last, say, 6 months to a year, that's 80s retro stuff, whatever. It's because it's been a little bit more, chic here lately. It's the epitome of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Even the clothes are so 80s. It's pretty hysterical. It's really, really hysterical. All right. Back to Brian. Anything else from you? Anything else you want to talk about? Or,
I mean, comedies. This is one I honestly, you kind of called me out on it when I signed on. But Fletch, comedies. There's a number of comedies that had a big influence on my sense of humor. I tend to be more. Maybe not always try, but I try to slip stuff in. I try to be a little bit. I try to make a joke, and to me it's a win-win. Like, if you get it, or if you don't get it, great. I'm laughing. It's funny to me,
mm-hmm.
so I'm good. If you get it,
even better.
That's just gravy. So there's movies like Fletch, Airplane, Caddyshack, Blazing Saddles, all that irreverent kind of sense of humor to where there's so much. It's that you say stuff that people don't expect, and I think that's probably just the basis of comedy in general, is saying something, is leading the audience one direction, and then at the end going a different direction.
Oh, there are so many. I remember when you first started the podcast, we would have airplane riffs where we would see how long we could go before we stopped throwing airplane quotes out.
Right. Right.
which was fantastic, you know, and
Yep.
it's like, don't call me Shirley. And you just go from there, and you could go for, God, it seems like forever.
Yeah. Well, especially that movie in particular, there's so many quotable lines. So, but there's a lot of those types of movies that are just huge, like between the really kind of late 70s to maybe like from probably 77 to 88, maybe 90. There's just a lot of those movies. Right.
Fletch, probably my all-time favorite comedy, honestly.
It's up there.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I'm pretty sure it's my favorite comedy. I think I've seen that comedy more than any other comedy in film. It's so much like, I don't know if I do it as much anymore, because as you get older, you mature, and you know, just like Chevy Chase, just less cranky. But that was my personality for the longest time. Like I could not say the most sarcastic thing you could imagine. And it probably was a detriment to my career for a big portion of it, because people don't, as much as it's funny in the movies, nobody likes a smart ass. I hate to tell you, public, they don't.
Yeah, I know. Dang it.
It's true. I mean, not in the professional circle. They like it when you're out at the bar, but boy, when you're in a meeting, nobody likes those jokes. I can tell you that. But there are so many in that movie. One of my all-time favorite jokes ever is when he goes to meet her at the country club, and she answers the door in a towel, and he's like, "Oh, can I borrow your towel? My car just hit a water buffalo." And it's like the most obscure.
It's ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. Oh, so funny. I'm just crying thinking about it. I might have to watch Fletch tonight.
Moon River.
Using the whole fist stack?
I can assure you it's not for looking.
Oh, God. That's funny. Oh. Speaking of comedies, I mean, I might as well throw mine out just to get them out there. But Beverly Hills Cop and Real Genius are my movies that make me appreciate comedies. You already talked about Airplane and whatnot. Caddyshack's in there somewhere, but Beverly Hills Cop, I love Eddie Murphy. I love him to death. I've seen him in concert back when he was funny. And, you know, because I don't think he's as sharp-witted as he used to be for sure. But in Beverly Hills Cop, he was like perfect Eddie Murphy. It was like that perfect combination of 48 Hours and he can act. You know, it was like that perfect combination.
Yeah, it wasn't just a comedian in a movie. This guy was actually an actor that was funny as hell.
Right. Yeah, he was so good. And you know, that was supposed to be Stallone originally. What? Yeah, true story. That was supposed to be Stallone originally.
Oh, God, that could have been so much worse.
You think?
Oh,
I definitely don't think it would have improved it.
Oh, or hey, let's flip the script. Let's say Stallone does Beverly Hills Cop. Let's say Eddie Murphy does Cobra.
Ooh.
Oh.
You're the disease and I'm the cure.
Oh my God.
Is it sad to say I'd watch it?
Yeah, no, not at all.
I'd watch the hell out of it. And then Bridget Nielsen shows up and he's like, damn, that's a big bitch.
My humor was different. I liked movies like Billy Madison, stuff like that. That Veronica Vaughn is one.
That's a quotable. That's a quotable. So hot. Want to touch the hiney.
Ow. Yeah,
Nudie
that was
Magazine
my
Day.
jam.
Nudie Magazine Day.
Oh, Billy Madison. What a great. That and Happy Gilmore are probably two of the most quotable movies ever. I would think.
For
Just
sure.
Prime Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like his peak, but it was.
It was his peak.
He's
was
still
up
pretty
there.
popular. I mean, he's still pretty popular though.
No, but yeah, it was the best. That was the best Adam Sandler.
Love Adam
50
Sandler.
First Dates, I would say, was a pretty good Sandler.
Oh, Wedding Singer.
Wedding Singer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of gone up and down, but when he's up, man, he is up.
On the plane with Billy Idol. He's just like
Yeah.
getting relationship advice from Billy Idol on the plane. Like, who thought of this? Like, who thought this was funny? But it was. Billy Madison. Just think about that, Amanda. Somebody wrote that script where they're like,
Oh,
we
I
want
know.
him to be an adult. He's going to hang out with kids, and he's basically going to torture the kids.
Yeah. He was so great, though. He was so great. I remember the first coworker I had that. So you guys talk about being able to riff off each other with quotes. The first experience I ever had with that was not until I was in my early 20s. I think I was 20, actually. And I was working with a woman who had the same love for Billy Madison. And so we would exchange quotes from the movie all the time, like while we were working. And it was the first time I feel like I really just had that. And man, it's so much fun when you can have a friendship and you just bond over stupid stuff like that. Like you get each other's humor and you're not even creating jokes. You're just reiterating them and laughing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I had a spontaneous, well, one of my good friends, I mean, we were already close friends, but had no idea about each other's love for the movie Top Gun. And this is a Coast Guard story where we actually got sent to a Navy school for like 3 days. And we're in this class and I'm sitting there and I'm twirling a pen through my fingers, right? And I just look over at him and the guy's talking about like, boring stuff like putting out fires and stuff you should do in case you're on a ship and it's on fire. And
important information.
Sure. So I looked over at my buddy Tim and I just say, hey man, this is kind of like that scene in Top Gun. And it was like, he starts throwing quotes, and I start whispering and we're laughing and I'm crying. And of course we're trying to keep composure. And it's like trying not to laugh in church or something, right? It's just like, you're not. And of course, the more you're not supposed to, the more funny it is. And it was so much fun. And then finally the instructor was just like, all right, yeah, let's take a 10-minute break and we'll get back to blah, 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 blah. So everybody kind of piles out. We're gathering ourselves, and it's just like, okay, all right, let's go out. Let's get some water. We start to walk out. He's like, hold up. He goes, I don't know what the F you guys are talking about, but y'all need to calm the hell down. So go out, gain your composure, come back in, but I don't want to see that ever again. It's like, oh,
you should have came back and said, but it was inverted.
Right.
I've made some of the best friends in my life just by quoting movies and then them getting it. And it's like, now we have a conversation. Now we have a connection. Now we have a bond. Brian
Absolutely.
and I mean, that's how we connected. So, I mean, it's one of those things where when people can relate to the same things you love, I mean, it's easy to love them back. You know what I mean? I mean,
absolutely.
People are always searching for people that enjoy things that they love. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad when, like, if Brian enjoys something that I've never heard of or I might not normally like, if he recommends it, I'll check it out just because I know his taste. I know if it's going to be, there's a better chance that I'll like it because that's what those kinds of friendships create. And that's also why people love movies.
Absolutely. And vice versa. And it tells you something about that other person. I think it's like, if that person appreciates this kind of humor, okay, they're good people.
Yep.
And that your jokes are safe to pass back
now,
there.
Oh man, that's
exactly.
helpful. That's definitely helpful.
I've been playing nice. Now I can let loose a little bit.
Yeah, I can tell if someone tells me I didn't like Fletch, I can't really be myself around them.
Yeah,
it's nothing
politely
personal.
excuse myself from the conversation.
Yeah. Or be very polite. Like, oh no, hello, how are you, Chad? Because they're named Chad. No offense to any Chads out there, but you know it. Amanda, did you have anything else that you wanted to throw out?
Yeah. So another, I guess, section of my love of movies relates to my youth obsession. And this is more when I had an innocent period of time. And so movies like The Parent Trap.
Were you 8?
Probably. But I was younger watching horror movies, so I don't really know what this is about me. The Parent Trap, the 90s one, just because I was born in that time. The Little Mermaid, Free Willy, Miracle on 34th Street, Land Before Time, Never Been Kissed, Toy Story, Sleeping Beauty. All of these movies were just enchanting to me for one reason or another. And especially when you talk about like the Disney classics, I feel like that's an integral part of every kid's childhood. And if you somehow missed out on those Disney classics like Sleeping Beauty or The Little Mermaid or The Lion King and stuff like that, I mean, I truly feel sorry for your entire life, because it's
Wow.
It's a part of, at least for me, it was like generations upon generations have been raised on those movies. Like, it's not something that just, they started in the 2000s or something. Some of these movies go back to the 60s and 70s, and they just continued and continued and continued.
And actually, like the 40s.
Yeah.
30s, 40s.
Yeah, some of them do go back that far. But I mean, they start in one time period, but that's not the end for them. It's just they become a core piece of growing up. Like, even think about Toy Story now. That came out in, the 90s? But I guarantee you every kid now is, like, being raised on movies like Toy Story and movies from Pixar, stuff like that.
Good call. A couple more I just want to throw out real quick. These are my adventure movies, but Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is one of the first movies I ever remember seeing with my entire family. And I mean, my uncles, cousins, mom, grandma, I think was there. And it was amazing because they were all out there because I love Indiana Jones. I love Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Aww.
And I was going to see the Temple of Doom, and they wanted to go with me because I was so excited. I mean, I don't know if I've ever been as excited about a movie as I was for that movie in my lifetime. And I've been pretty excited about some shit. But yeah, I was bouncing off the walls. I mean, I tried to swing from trees. I hurt myself a lot. But so stoked for that movie. Yeah,
if your adult injuries are any indication of how much you hurt yourself as a kid playing around, jumping, swinging from trees and stuff, then yeah, I can imagine you probably hurt yourself real good.
Yeah, healed a lot better back then, though. Boy, it bounced right back.
Absolutely. But those were fun, and it's, I know there's a lot of, I think we even discussed this a long time ago about how. I think it's when you see these movies, when you're a certain age and they have a lasting impression on you. But there was something about that I'll just say 77 to like 88-ish time frame that movies were just really doing things differently than had been done previously.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go see that movie, and again, you weren't getting a text alert saying, hey, the new trailer dropped for this movie that's coming out 6 months from now or a year from now.
You were reading the newspaper in my time.
Yeah, you were
looking
exactly.
for the
you
time.
Were
the show
you were
times.
looking for the time. I was like, okay, let's not do the 1 o'clock, but hey, let's or let's not do the 4 o'clock. Let's do. We can either do the 1 o'clock or like the 7 o'clock. Oh, it'll be really crowded for 7. Yeah, let's go early. And then you get there early and you're still standing around the back of the theater because you're everybody else is there as well.
And you're waiting in line because they had one theater that was playing it, maybe two.
Yeah.
We had a dollar theater, and it was not. I mean, you think about the value of that, and I'm not very old, so under 30 years, and a dollar theater.
But you're getting there.
You're going for sure, but like the things that happen in that theater, I reflect back and I'm like, who let us go inside this place? It's like, this couldn't have been great. I just remember everything always being sticky, and I never questioned. I never questioned what happened in this theater.
The foam and the armrests have already deteriorated. You feel your arm sink into it. It's not just and you feel the frame of the armrest, and it's got holes and stuff patched in it.
The seats aren't even bolted in; they're just sitting on the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like some theaters, if you go in and eat popcorn, if it falls on your seat, you'll probably pick it up and eat it because 5-second rule. But in those theaters, No, that's contaminated.
It's questionable eating it out of the bucket.
I agree. Yep, I agree. And we're like, where'd you pop it? Can you show me the popper? Can I see the popper?
Right. I want. Please fill it up from the popper. Do not hand me something that's already prepackaged.
Some other adventure. Return of the Jedi was a huge one. That's the first movie I remember really waiting in a huge line for.
Mine was Empire.
Oh, was it? Yours was Empire? Mm-hmm. For me, I don't know about you, but we saw it at the mall because malls were a big thing back then. And you waited, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I think I waited to see it. Same for you, or?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. This was, I can remember standing behind the building. It had, of course, the entrance is in the middle of it was at the mall, but it wasn't inside the mall. It was an offshoot building.
Okay. That
was like across the parking lot, but it was in the back. And yeah, it was, so the entrance was in the middle. It was all the way down if you're facing it, it was the left side, then through down the width of the building and about a third of the way back. And yeah, and you just stood there. I mean, it was like waiting at Disney World or something for Space Mountain.
Yeah, it's like we've done it. We've all done it when we went to South by Southwest because that's kind of how the theaters and the movies are there. But man, I mean, going to an actual movie these days, I've never had that happen since then. It just doesn't, you don't need to. You've got 47 shows of everything. And I kind of miss that. I don't want to do it every time, but when you get like an event, like Endgame would have been awesome to wait in a line like that. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, you're standing there with like-minded people.
Oh yeah.
And you're all excited. You're all excited for the exact same thing. And again, it's that there is an energy, and this is why concerts are big, and honestly, in churches, and it's the same thing. You kind of build off of each other's energy and excitement about a common thing. And so when you're all getting amped up and you're getting closer and you're getting closer and next thing you know, you're 25 feet from the ticket gate and you're like, all right, how many we getting? So
that's good. All right, guys. Any last mentions you want to mention, Brian, before we move on?
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That was another early comedy influence, even though I probably didn't understand it more until later in life. The Usual Suspects was one that kind of struck me later in life, where I could see, like, something around that mid '90s. There was a good era for movies.
Oh yeah, Pulp Fiction. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a very positive shift in storytelling, and yeah, I guess we'll call it that. I know there's more, but
oh yeah, we could do like 4 volumes of this episode.
Right, exactly.
Amanda, anything to close on?
Well, you started talking about the experience of being in long lines and movie theaters and all of that. And one that comes to mind that was super significant for me in like my teenage years was Harry Potter. And it was a combination of falling in love with the franchise, but also working at the movie theater during that. It was so fun to have a slate of midnight showings, and I would do the announcements. So I remember one year I think we had like up to 9. So it'd be like 12:01, 12:02, 12:03, 12:04, 12,
wow.
And it would go on. And my responsibility was to hop between all of them at their start time. So I had like a minute to do my announcement in front of the theater, run to the next one, do my announcement, run to the next one. And the adrenaline I got from that and just going in there and doing my thing, and it was so fun. And I would see long lines of people. They're all dressed up. They're all excited. And, I saw this for a lot of different movie franchises, but it was so cool to me to see a bunch of people wanting to see the same movie that I wanted to see. Like, I didn't have that same Star Wars experience you guys had because I wasn't alive yet. And my initial Star Wars viewing was the the prequels, which
Oh.
I do like. But again, that goes back to Brian's point, probably about when you see them and how they connect with you. And I remember watching them with my brother and my dad. And so they have a soft spot for me.
Sure.
Even Jar Jar. I like Jar Jar. I think he's
Oh,
cute.
bless your heart.
But Harry Potter was just a combination of something I don't think I'm ever going to experience again in that way. And it's the last big franchise that I can recall having this amount of people who were just like, no, we have to go on a Thursday night to go to the midnight showing and see it as soon as it drops. Like, I'm willing to not go to work tomorrow, or I'm willing to sacrifice all my sleep. I remember one of our Harry Potter showings, we had like so many people wanting to come. We sold out all the midnight shows. We started doing like 2 a.m.s. So we didn't leave until almost 5 a.m. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. And it just made me fall in love with the franchise even more for that reason.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I have to give a shout out to Boondock Saints, because once I found that in my teenage years, it changed things for me.
Yeah.
It was something that I was completely unexpected. For me, people weren't talking about it, even though it was after the movie came out. It was just something that really resonated with me, and I thought it was so freaking cool.
Yeah, to this day, it's still my favorite blockbuster find, where you just pick a random movie, like, all right, this looks good and this looks good, and yeah, and that was one, and it's still my best random pick ever.
That would be fun.
I would agree
That would be a
with you.
fun topic someday. Your best blockbuster find, because man, so many people wouldn't have.
Well,
any.
don't call me for that one. I just spoiled it. So.
Yeah.
My last one I want to mention is going to seem super weird.
I thought
because it's
Boondock was your last one. This is like
no.
your third
This
and
is my
one.
last one. Lady in the Water, my most hated movie that's ever existed. But I am grateful for it, because up to this point, and I was probably like, 13 years old, maybe, if this is super aging myself. And this was the first time that I can recall actually being affected by the movie itself, in terms of what it was producing for me. It wasn't about who I was with. It wasn't about,
Nausea,
is it just
nausea,
entertaining?
vomiting.
Yeah. Anger and frustration. And it was about the development of the script, the execution of the film, like the actual filmmaking process bothered me.
So the
And
lack,
that's
the
when I
lack
was
of
like-
all those things.
The lack of all of those things. Yeah. But that's when I knew, okay, I love movies for when they're good, and I have passion for this, because the passion of hatred that I had that came from that movie stuck with me all these years.
Had?
And yeah, well, I started. Yeah. But I'm still incredibly grateful, because that was the turning point for me. That's when I was like, man, I really, like, this is not just something that's been a part of my life. It's something that I'm actually passionate about myself.
Good deal.
Was that your last one?
Yeah, it is my last.
And finally, and my second finally,
It's like a
but my really
5-year-old.
last one.
It's like a 5-year-old, yeah.
All right. So here is the top 10 from the listener poll we put out. Here's what the listeners picked as the 10 most influential movies for the movies that made them love movies. And I should point out, like, there were 70 or 80 total films. So, I mean, the fact that you got down to, or 6, whatever the number was, down to 10, I think is pretty cool. And not many of these were really surprising, except one, but I'll tell you. So number 10 is The Goonies.
Mm-hmm.
Great pick.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys. Natalie Dormer in her first role. Superman.
Oh, don't. You're so mean.
You are mean.
I think she's
And I
pretty.
still don't, and I do too. And I still don't see that in her. And I don't know.
I don't either.
How your brain works to where you correlate the two. But I cannot. Even looking at it, because I've even looked at the image side by side.
You transpose them one over the other.
Yeah, just to be like,
I'm in your head. I'm in your head.
You know, if there's like, yeah, it's just one of those, it's not that I don't get it, but I don't get it. You know what I mean? It's like,
It works for
Okay.
me. That's all that matters.
I mean, apparently, but yeah,
Aaron,
I don't see it.
I mean, if she ever called, I would apologize ferociously for ever making that joke, but I'm not going to let it go. I'm just not.
Aaron,
All
I've
right.
seen your wife, so I know you can recognize beauty, but like how you get
Thank you.
so far off
She
with this
obviously
Natalie
can't.
Dormer. Oh my God.
Oh, what a dick. I deserve
All
that.
right.
After
End of the podcast.
That's what I
We're
get.
done.
That's what I get. There you go, Natalie. He got me back. All right, number 9. It's 1978's Superman.
Oh, all right.
Christopher Reeve. Yeah,
Yeah, but I didn't expect that one to be on here.
I didn't either. I really didn't expect number 8, Blade Runner.
That one doesn't surprise me.
It's a very nap-inducing influential movie for me, but
Yes,
it's
same here.
still that one
know-
and Dune. You put them on, and I'm guaranteed to be out quicker than watching golf.
What's funny, I've had this discussion with people. When it comes to Blade Runner, with or without the narration, I sleep equally. So
It's
just
what is
not
it?
for me.
It's like ASMR or whatever it is, AMSR or something
Yeah.
like that. It's like, all right, cool. You want me out? Put
Yeah.
that on.
It's a cinematic CPAP.
Right. I will. I will nap hard.
Oh, that's funny. All right, moving on to number 7 is The Never-Ending Story. No laughs. Okay.
I mean, no, okay.
I can see that. A lot
you
of
know,
childhoods are centered
Yeah,
I've
around
got
that's
fond
true.
memories of it. I mean, and I've rewatched it recently, and
Oh, I'm sorry. That dragon,
Yeah,
that luck
yeah.
dragon, tell me it doesn't scream pedophilia to you. I mean, isn't he like the creepiest? Like I always say, if you replace one letter on that luck dragon, it's a totally different movie. And it plays. I like children. What? Where the hell did that come from, you freak? And it just the rest of the movie, just think about it like that. It will ruin your childhood. I promise you.
nah, it's what is it? The horse scene in the mud. I think that's really it. After that, it's just kind of like it's like an emotional thing,
Yeah.
and then after that, it really kind of loses me after that point. But
All right. Top 6. Here's where I think it makes a lot more sense to people. Jurassic Park, number 6. That's God,
Okay.
all right,
yeah, man, the special effects, that's probably one of the best special effects films still to this day.
and they still hold up.
Still do.
Yeah.
Seamless, really.
Yep.
Man, it's like a fantastic, man, when they get out of that, when they first get there and they're looking out over that vast mountaintop or whatever you want to say, that gets me every time. Like right in the feels, and then the music swells up. Oh, so good. Back to the Future. the
Yeah,
movie?
that one deserves it.
Timeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Timeless.
I'll tell you, when I was in film school and I was in my screenwriting class, and I've never had a stronger appreciation for a script than Back to the Future. Like that was
Really?
Yeah, because all of the effort, I mean, think about time travel movies and how convoluted they are and how difficult they are to make sense to audiences, or they don't get so consumed in the actual time travel, the nuances of it. It all just seemed so seamless. It transitioned well, and audiences weren't fixated on the time travel piece of it. Like, how does the science work? It was, okay, fun movie. I'm going to enjoy it. But it was so well
Sure.
done. And you think about how difficult it is to develop a script like that. Nobody has been able to produce a time travel script like that ever since.
And to do it 3 times where they're all interrelated.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm still saying if my mom was Leah Thompson, would have been a different movie. All right. So,
you would have brought in that luck dragon, huh?
all right. Number 4 is The Wizard of Oz. That's a great
Oh,
pick. Oh,
that
man,
is a
that's
great one.
One of my mother's favorite movies. And I remember we would watch it all the time when it came on TV. And there's just sheer imagination in that movie. Sheer imagination. No money, and it still looked great.
that's a great pick. That was the only play I was ever in, was about the Wizard of Oz.
So we're just going to make it all about you. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for a minute.
Because that's what we're talking about is theater at this point.
Listen here, Brian Williams.
Childhood theater, it's okay. Great. You did a 7th grade rendition of Wizard of Oz.
I was like in probably 4th grade.
Even better.
Top 3.
Just kidding.
We've pretty much talked about these, but so it's really no surprise. But number 3, Jaws. I think that's no surprise. It's amazing to me
I'm
how many.
surprised it's not number 1.
I'm not surprised it's not number 1, but I am not surprised at how many generations I keep finding that one. That one. Speaking of timeless, my God, that's from early 70s, and it still plays perfect.
And when you think about what actually happened to make it work the way it did, the behind the scenes of the shark itself.
The fact that it didn't work at all.
I mean, the cultural impact, the cultural impact that like it had in some ways has continued to have, just affected people's vacations.
Yeah.
I mean, it
still does. Yeah.
I mean, it's again, whether they're making jokes or whether they're physically scared to still go in the water, their fear of sharks is because of this movie. Nobody was scared of sharks before that.
Yeah, nobody even thought about them. You know why? Because they've really only hurt like 6 people a year. But because of this movie, we think it's millions.
It's every time you go in the water, they're just waiting for you to show up.
I can smell your feet. Oh, yum.
Oh, look, it's June. People start, all right. We got to start working back towards Florida.
That's how they do it. Guys, it's tourist season. We really got to head back.
All right, Bruce, we got to head back to Florida. We're heading back to Amity.
I see what you did there. Well connected.
Uh-huh.
Number 2, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a damn near perfect movie as well.
It is.
I retract my Jaws being number 1 because I just thought about what's going to be number 1, and that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it fits. But Raiders of the Lost Ark, agreed, Brian. It's one of those few perfect movies. It just start to finish works flawlessly,
and it still holds up.
It does
every bit. Temple of Doom is my favorite, but Raiders is a better movie. I'm always able to say that.
Yeah, Temple is more. It's more Hollywood.
Yeah,
I think,
and ridiculous.
I think, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we got something good now. Let's fuck it up.
Yep. And
that's Hollywood for you.
That's my ass. I love that movie.
Not that they messed it up,
great.
But it's like now all of a sudden all the studio execs now they all want to put their stamp on it.
Guys, I got some notes. Notes. Here we go.
Let's put Shia in the next one.
Why can't he pull a heart out of a guy and he's still alive? Why not? Why can't he? Well, because that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, no, but it does.
Has anybody ever done it before? Have you seen somebody do it and the person just die instantly? No.
Exactly. Why are these stones? Why are they're hot when they're together, but he's got them in the bag together for a long period of time and they don't light up until he's really, really ready to climb up a ladder and he needs them to light up and like, hey, movies.
How close do you have to get to the lava before you actually burst into flames?
Very
Or at
close.
least get, 2nd degree burns, maybe? Apparently you can get right above the lava and not be burned.
She's dropping down there so long. Like Willie is literally going down there for 47 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
The first guy was down there in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
She was. Too funny. And by the way, Short Round saves everybody in that movie, and he gets no credit. He's the reason that gets there and knocks Indy out of it. He is the savior of that movie. He really deserved to come back in the sequels. The number 1 movie for movies that made us love movies is Star Wars. Like, really, I don't even know why I paused. Was there really a surprise with that? It feels fitting, though. I mean, that was one of those movies where, it was a huge, gigantic hit, and it changed films forever. I mean, how many movies have tried to emulate Star Wars and failed miserably? All of them.
Anyone that's tried.
Yeah, everyone that's tried has just not done it. It's a miracle of the time, for sure.
No, it elevated the genre for one thing. It just really showed what can be done with movies. It made every other studio, including their own, kind of up their game at that point. it's just one of those landmark movies that comes out every so often.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, not much. I mean, not much you can say about it. But also there's so much you can say about it.
Yeah. Oh, great topic, guys. Now we've got some upcoming releases real quick, and then we'll close the show out. But before we do, we've got an ad for you from Rob the Internet Guy. And if you don't know, Rob was instrumental in the Hollywood Outsider's early success and development over the years. He actually taught me coding so I could develop the website and go from there. And he helped me build the original website many, many years ago that became the website it is now. And he's been helpful over the years. So he started a YouTube channel. I want you to hear about it and
Woo woo.
just go over there and give him a couple clicks. Help the guy out because he's trying to launch this new platform of his. And I hope you enjoy it. Here's Rob the Internet Guy.
You love movies and entertainment, right? And what goes better with that than beer? Do you want to know more about craft beer without all the pretentious beer snobbery? Then tune in to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, where we discuss beer styles, tasting notes, have engaging conversation, and fun. That's Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, premiering May 1st on YouTube.
Okay, man, we got some upcoming releases. Then since John wasn't available at the last second, you get all of them. Have at it.
All right. Well, the good news is they all come out on May 7th. So Wrath of Man is the first one coming to theaters. It's Guy Ritchie's latest. Follows H, a cold and mysterious character working at a cash truck company responsible for moving hundreds of millions of dollars around Los Angeles each week. And H is played by Jason Statham. So
Jason
sure
Statham.
to be enjoyable. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next one comes to VOD. It's called Initiation. During a university's pledge week, the carefree partying turns deadly serious when a star athlete is found impaled in his dorm. The murder ignites a spree of sinister social media messages, sweeping the students and police into a race against time to uncover the truth behind the school's dark secret. Then also on VOD, we have The Paper Tigers. 3 kung fu prodigies have grown into washed up middle-aged men. Is this about you guys?
Yes.
Now one kick away from pulling their hamstrings. But when their master is murdered, they must juggle their dead-end jobs, dad duties, and old grudges to avenge his death.
That sounds amazing.
I mean, the rest of it sounds legit, but we ain't watched up yet.
And the last one is actually a series which is premiering on Netflix, also on May 7th, Jupiter's Legacy, written and directed by Stephen DeKnight, producer for Angel, Daredevil, and Spartacus, and the writer of Pacific Rim Uprising, if this helps you with your decision at all. The superpowered children of superheroes struggle to live up to the legendary feats of their parents. It stars Josh Duhamel and Leslie Bibb.
And Josh has the worst wig I've seen in a long time.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of bad. Unless he grew all that hair, in which case, good job, I guess. But it looks like Fergie's wig. Like he stole a wig from Fergie's house, and he's wearing it for this show. That's what it looks like.
But he's actually in the, it's one that I actually saw at South by, the one that was directed by Giancarlo Esposito.
The show?
Which is actually pretty good. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. Check that out. The show?
Okay.
Is that it?
Yep. I'm pretty sure it's called The Show. Yep.
Yeah. And he's a super nice guy, by the way, just so you know.
You just really want to throw it out so you can say I met the guy, right?
Sure. But actually, no, but I saw it just the other day. I was flipping through and it came up as a recommendation or something like that and was like, what? You know, it's
From
been
2017.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's funny, like just now that these movies that we saw 3-4 years ago are just now coming to public view.
That was a great movie. It really was. Really underappreciated. All right. Any recent film or TV recommendations we haven't already talked about? Brian, you're a guest. Anything you've watched recently that you want to give a shout out or tell people to check out?
Gosh, I've been rehashing old dependable stuff like Justified. So if you like the supernatural weird stuff, the Skinwalker series on Hulu was pretty good.
The Skinwalker Ranch.
Yep.
I started watching that, And I've started listening to a podcast related to that story too, and it's weird. It's wild.
I watched a movie about it a couple years ago, and both of these are actually on Hulu.
And they reference the butthole carving of the animals also.
What?
Well, yeah.
There's rectum carvings and eye carvings out of these animals.
I am interested.
Yeah.
That's all I figured I would have to say to get people interested.
So
Butthole carvings gets Aaron excited.
I'm on board.
You know, just when you think you know somebody. No, but it's actually interesting. It was recently purchased by this super rich dude. He's hired a bunch of really smart, like PhDs, scientists, astrophysicists, all these science-based people to come just figure out what the heck's going on. We're not saying that it's aliens or whatever. However, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. We've got all these phenomena. So we got all this phenomena. What does it mean?
I think it's important to note that it goes back for decades upon decades, like back to the 60s or 70s or something. And the government invested millions of dollars into research to the former owner of Skinwalker Ranch, who is also a billionaire. And it originated, like these stories originated from a family who did not try to profit off it. They just like up and dipped out after a couple years because they're like,
they
I'm
just
done
said,
with
we
this.
had enough. You know, like literally all of our cattle are just dying.
Oh, that's
And there's like certain things that like if you dig on the land like there's
reacts.
something, there's like a reaction where it affects people and it's crazy. There's some crazy stuff, but there's things that are happening to the animals too. It's a wild story.
Yeah, it's again, it's not, you know, it's not trying to prove aliens or Sasquatches or chupacabras or anything like that. It's just saying, hey, look, we've got a lot of crazy stuff going on. We have personal experiences. We've got documented experiences. We have physical evidence. We've set up all these cameras and sensors and the stuff that measures microwaves and gamma waves and all kinds of other stuff. And are just trying to make sense of it. And it's a good thing to remind you that there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't understand yet.
And I think whenever the government invests millions and millions of dollars and they keep the research closed, there's reason for further investigation. You know what I mean? They don't give money like that for nothing.
Right.
Sure they do. That's what the government does. We just give money away. It's our new thing. I will say two animation thing. Invincible wrapped up. It sticks the landing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a fan of the animation style, but the story's great.
I am.
Okay. Well, fair enough. But it does stick the landing either way. So if you're a fan of The Boys and you also like some animation, I think you should check out Invincible.
Don't watch it with your kids. It is not meant for families.
Watch it with your kids. Take some chances. Live a little. Let's see what those kids are made of. Builds character. The other animated thing, The Bad Batch, the new Star Wars show, that's basically it's a follow-up to the Clone Wars, I think. And it's on Disney+. I like this animation style. Don't care about the story. So it's like the opposite. I would love to see this animation style with Invincible. I think that would work much better. But it's really about basically a 5 clone team that kind of goes against the grain after the Empire wins, after the fall of the Clone Wars and all that. It's fine. It just didn't really stick with me. I'm not a diehard in those respects. I know a lot of people are probably raving about it. Star Wars can do no wrong, but for me, this one did wrong. I won't watch it again.
Oh, Star Wars can do some wrong.
You're not allowed to say it publicly, I don't think.
Right.
All right, Amanda.
Well, my recommendation is part of our weekly streaming recommendation, and mine is from Netflix. It's a new series called Shadow and Bone, which is based on a series of books. And it's dark forces conspire against orphan map maker Alina Starkov when she unleashes an extraordinary power that could change the fate of her war-torn world. It's created by Eric Heiserer, starring Jessie May Lee, Archie Renault, and Ben Barnes. It's incredibly casted. The story is wonderful. The production is outstanding. I truly like. If you were to think about the HBO shows, typically the first thing that stands out is the incredible production quality of those shows that go to HBO. This is Netflix's, I think, best production quality series they've put together. It is just tremendously beautiful. And the story is really unique and interesting. It actually inspired me after I binged the whole first season to get the books. And so I started reading the first book, and it's just really fascinating in terms of the fantasy, and the world building is really great. It's its own thing. I know some people are saying it's the next Game of Thrones. I think it's a little bit different. I wouldn't go into it with those same expectations because the story and the worlds are just so different. But it is something that you can get completely invested into the characters and what's going to happen.
Jessie Millet is great.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's a great lead actress. And I don't know why, but I really feel like, is Ben Barnes like officially the new Tim Roth, but not as good? Because he's always the same guy in every movie. Like, you just, as soon as he shows up on screen, you're like, well, he's going to screw some people around.
The thing is, he's so charming that he makes a convincing enough. Well, this is kind of spoilery if we always say that he's a villain,
don't get into it. I'm just saying, like, you can, from the trailer, as soon as I see Ben Barnes, I'm like, because I haven't watched the show, Amanda, so it isn't a spoiler. I've seen 2 episodes and he hasn't done anything wrong yet. But as soon as I see him,
he's
I'm
so
like,
charming.
Bad guy. Gotta be the bad guy.
Yeah, Rufus Sewell.
Yeah.
After the Punisher, I'm
time,
just kind of like, yeah.
Every time you see him, you're just like, yeah, okay. We know you're the nice guy now, but in about 3 or 4 episodes, we're going to realize that you're the baddie.
Yep. Maybe they'll prove us wrong. I don't know. I haven't watched it, so I don't know what.
He's so damn charming in this show, though.
He's a charming dude. He does what he does.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of like what happened to him in Westworld and what happened to him in Punisher, so maybe I like what happens to him here. But yeah, I watched 2 episodes too, and it is a really cool show. Great production value. I did have to turn the subtitles on to keep up with it, because there's a lot of, and it's not because it's so much like the words are too big for me. It's the accents are very thick, and it's a lot.
Start mumbling. There's a lot of mumbling.
Exactly, and it's got a lot of book logic. You know, book words. It's got a lot of words that only work from the book, and stuff that I don't know these concepts. So it's all new to me, and it takes a while. Like was it the Gracia or Grusha? What's it called?
The Grisha.
The Grisha. That's like a big factor of it, and it comes up a lot. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So it's really a very world building show. There's a lot of world building. It's very much like Game of Thrones. I had to do the same thing with Game of Thrones the first season.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. It's just I haven't watched Shadow and Bone yet. I've heard a lot of talk about it lately. I've got it added. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, thanks for the heads up on the subtitles, because that's kind of the same thing when you're watching something new and it's you're creating a world and it's got its own terminology and
its own language. Yeah,
right. And you're throwing people probably speaking in some kind of a foreign accent, and so many movies these days they're like mumbling. So it's just, you mix all that together, you're like, I don't know what the F's going on. So,
you know what's really cool about the book is whenever they introduce something that is not of the English language, so it's directly created from this world, it's italicized. So I can always tell, oh, this is something where if I Google this word, I'm not going to find the answer to what it means. It's not me being dumb. It's just they've created this, but they give enough context in the book where you can understand it. And I think eventually you start to understand it in the show, but I always watch stuff with subtitles now, so I'm used to it. But I would agree, I would not be able to watch it without the subtitles, because you just get so lost trying to spend time figuring that out when there's so much story happening.
That's why I gave up on The Handmaid's Tale. I'm just like, y'all freaking mumbling too much.
They do mumble a lot.
Y'all aren't using words I don't understand or don't know about. You're just, everybody's whispering.
That's so dark, man. Jesus. Like that.
There's finally light at the end of season 3.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not.
It takes a while.
Congratulations.
On that
Enjoy that light.
I was watching that show and I'm like halfway through the first season, like, well, I mean, You might as well just turn all the lights out in the house because this is the most dark show I've seen in a long time. Like, there's just no
It's
promise. in it.
very, yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a toll on you.
No,
the season
not on me.
4 release.
No toll at all.
Season
no toll.
4
Anymore, it
released, and I
Walked it
started
off.
watching it. I got through the first few episodes they released, and it's hard to get through because there's so much sadness in the show, and even when you feel like there's promise.
Now you make my decision. You make me so glad I made the right decision at this point.
She literally just said, Brian, she said season 3 ends with some brightness. And then she said, well, they
is
just released
brightness.
some new episodes and I couldn't hardly get through it because it was so damn sad.
It's so dark and sad.
It is, but it does take a toll on you because
No,
it's
it
not
doesn't.
like you get.
Stop
Sucks
watching
the
it.
soul
You
out of
don't
ya.
get the complete ending of happiness because the show's obviously continuing. You just get a step of something good. And then it's like,
I'm
God
good.
damn it, but I'm still having to be sad.
I'll be fine. I'll walk this off. So many people say, no, you got to get back in. It's so great. I'm like, it might be great, but I'll never get back into it. I am done with that road. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Pulled off. Okay, well, share your thoughts on this episode or anything else in our Facebook group, which is The Hollywood Outsider. We're also on Twitter @BuyPopcorn, and our website is TheHollywoodOutsider.com. Rate us and subscribe on your preferred podcast app if you could, please. You can find Brian Williams on Twitter if you want, @BrianWMS, Amanda on Veronica's Marshmallows and Smirk, and @Sinkin' in This, and me on the Blacklist Exposed and Presenting Hitchcock, and @Aaron Smirks. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Brian, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for filling in. You came in literally last minute. I mean, there's not much more last minute you could have gotten.
Right. I had to extend the start time, apparently, just to give me time to find everything to connect to get back on this. So, but it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's always good to hang out with you guys, get the dream team back together for a little while.
Yeah, the dream team.
Brian is officially the red wire in every action movie you've seen where you down to the wire, you got 5 seconds left. Cut the red wire.
That's right. Captain Clutch right here, baby. Woo!
Well, thanks for doing this, Amanda. As
My
always,
pleasure.
thanks for being here.
Of course. May the 4th be with you.
It's by the time I listen to it, it's
Hey,
past
let me
that.
finish though,
Okay.
and enjoy your revenge of the 5th and happy Cinco de Mayo.
It's still going to be after that, probably when most people hear it.
Then that's on them. You should have listened to it sooner. If you subscribe and you set alerts, then you get notified the instant the episode goes up, which means you won't be late.
Well played. All right, I'll take that. And remember, the next time you go to a theater, which is opening all across the world at rising capacities. Thank you. Buy popcorn. All right, let's get to our From the Outside In topic. Brian, you can come back now.
Yeah, okay.
He's been here. He's just been
I'm
drinking.
listening the whole
Oh, okay.
time.
All right.
I got it. You're such an idiot.